there's a deafening silence in the startup world. Everyone's chasing funding, customers, validation, the usual checklist of success. But armies of founders feel alone, unheard, constantly needing to justify, to bargain, to convince people who don't want to listen. It's exhausting, isn't it? That relentless dance of trying to persuade someone who's already made up their mind, someone safe inside their old beliefs, scared of anything new. If this feels like a trap, that's because it is. It's the trap of playing by the rules of others' realities, of begging for permission to exist and to create. But what if the real power doesn't lie in persuasion? What if, before you ever get to a yes, you had to stir something raw, something that rips open the false comfort people cling to? The truth is, great founders don't start by persuading. They provoke. They shatter illusions. They unsettle minds. They shake the ground beneath tired assumptions. Because you cannot build the future on the foundation of someone else's complacency. It's brutal to admit, but most founders waste precious energy trying to sell ideas to closed minds. Those minds are shields, armor forged by years of safe thinking, those invisible walls of tradition and comfort that suffocate innovation. The world loves to pretend it's a playground for the bold, but look around, and you'll see it's a cage disguised as an empire of freedom. It whispers, follow the path, stay quiet, don't ask for too much. The hardest thing you'll ever realize is that people don't want to be persuaded. They want to be confirmed. They want their beliefs echoed, not challenged. That's the trap. And if you keep politely asking for a seat at the table, you might never have the courage to build your own. Provocation is the hammer that cracks open that cage. It's not about rude rebellion for the sake of noise. It's about shaking the world so violently it cannot ignore you anymore. You provoke because you want to cut through the noise, to be raw and dangerous enough to be seen, heard, and felt. Provocation makes people uncomfortable and good. It forces a crack in their certainty, a fissure wide enough for a new belief to slip inside. It is the only way to create space for real dialogue, for real change, for real persuasion. Think about this. Every great breakthrough, every revolutionary startup didn't ask politely. They disrupted. They challenged. They mocked the status quo. Airbnb didn't say, please trust strangers in your homes. They provoked the idea that your personal space could be part of a global village, sharing not just keys but stories and lives. Tesla didn't beg for acceptance. It blasted down the myth that electric cars couldn't be fast, sexy, desirable. They provoked entire industries and governments, forcing them to look up and rethink everything they thought was impossible. Provocation breaks open the system's fingers around the throat of progress. You're living in a world that has become allergic to change. It clasps its outdated rules like life rafts, pulling anyone who dares to disrupt into the undertow of dismissal and hostility. The world wants founders who sell safe, who promise less risk, less failure, fewer waves. The moment you provoke reality, you're on your own. People will call you reckless, controversial, even dangerous. But here's the brutal truth no one wants to say out loud. If you don't provoke, you don't matter. You become another whisper in the endless echo chamber of sameness. But how do you provoke without burning bridges? That's the art that separates the good from the great. Provocation isn't chaos. It's a scalpel, precise and purposeful. It's about drilling into the core lies that hold people back, the comfortable lies they tell themselves to avoid the pain of change. Provocation asks the difficult questions no one dares to voice. It exposes hypocrisies. It reveals scarcity hidden behind abundance. It uncovers stagnation where progress claims to thrive. Provocation holds up a mirror so raw that it hurts, and that hurt is the first step out of ignorance. When the founders finally learn to provoke first, persuasion becomes inevitable. Because once the old mental walls are cracked, the seeds of transformation can grow. You're not just selling an idea anymore. You're inviting others to join a rebellion against a frozen reality. Persuasion is not a polite conversation. It's a call to arms, a shared recognition that what was once normal is no longer acceptable. And that's when real alignment happens, not through compromise, but through shared fire. This is where many founders stumble. They want to be liked, to make everyone comfortable, to avoid conflict. That's the easy path, but it leads straight to obscurity. Comfort is the villain here. Comfort kills ideas. Comfort kills founders. If you want to build something that matters, you have to embrace discomfort as your home. Provocation is not about being loud for attention. It's about being wild and untamed enough to wake yourself up first, and then wake the world up with you. The founders who settle for polite persuasion are already losing. The future doesn't belong to those who play it safe. It belongs to those who burn bridges so fiercely the only way forward is creation. To provoke is to signal that you are done with borrowed lives, done with playing by tired rulebooks, done with the illusion of freedom shackled by convenience. Provocation is the roar that reminds everyone what real freedom feels like, the freedom to destroy old frameworks and build new ones from ashes. Imagine what happens when you stop begging to be heard and instead make the world uncomfortable enough that it can't help but listen. Imagine the power in that. That's not just business strategy, that's survival, that's rebellion, that's liberation. The rare few who dare to provoke first create movements, not markets. They don't seek permission, they demand evolution. They strike the match before anyone asks if they can hold a lighter. Here's the secret few understand. Provocation creates alignment faster than any pitch deck. People don't connect because they like your idea. They connect because it stitches something raw inside them back together. Provocation wakes that raw nerve buried under years of conditioning and false promises. It makes people remember what it's like to be alive, to be dangerous, to be the exception. And once they remember, they join you. Not because you carefully explained the incremental benefits of your solution, but because you shook their world so hard it crumbled, and they can't help but jump into the new chaos you offer. The founders who win are those who learn to provoke with clarity and courage, who speak not to please, but to awaken. Because in that awakening lies power, the power to redraw reality, to tear down the known and create the unknown. Persuasion? That comes only after the storm. It's the calm that follows the quake, the inevitable shift once foundations have been unsettled. But provocation is also about connection. It's not loneliness screaming into the void. It's the rare signal fired from the edge, the spark that calls others like you, others who see the world as broken, but don't settle for fixing it, those who see the world as a canvas for total reinvention. The founders who provoke first find each other in the cracks they create. They align, amplify, and accelerate beyond anything the old system allowed. Don't fight the system on its terms. Break the system open and remake the rules. So stop trying to persuade someone who's not ready. Instead, make them uncomfortable enough to be ready. Destroy their illusions. Rip up their rulebooks. Ignite the fire they tried to bury beneath their routines. Because only then can you gather the real ones, the rare, the wild, the relentless, and together create the future that the world desperately fears and needs. This is your moment to stop begging permission and start provoking reality. To stop whispering and start roaring. The founders who dare to provoke first are the founders who change everything. This isn't just strategy, it's survival. The old world is collapsing. The future will be made by those who break first before they build. The question is, will you provoke or will you persuade your own silence?